All right. Hello, everybody. This is such a great show today. I am so pumped. I'm so excited. I just got back from a 7-day trip. I couldn't wait to do this interview, and it's here, and I'm just really excited. So if you are hopping on here, tell us where you're from in the chat and in the comments. Just, say your name so we know you're on. Just put your name in there and where you're tuning in from. I'm Sherri Johnson, today's host, and this is Rockstar Interview. We have an incredible guest on today, and this is probably one of our most highly attended pre-registration events we've done. I'm so excited to have Ryan on today. Ryan Smith, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to the show. And how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm here, so I'm happy, and I'm looking forward to sharing my love and passion for farming with your audience.
Yes, we're talking about geo-target farming, everybody. And right now, and in any market conditions, farming is one of the best, I would say, the best lead generations for listings, and it's the most underutilized and really
100%.
underrated. So we're going to talk big time today about how to go out and farm with a different approach. Ryan's got some other ways to farm that are not the, necessarily the traditional ways. So I'm excited to hear those. And I'm looking at all these folks getting on. And again, welcome to the show. I'm Sherri Johnson from Sherri Johnson Coaching. This will be recorded. It is being recorded. We're going to have it on the Rockstars in Real Estate Facebook group. It will also be put onto our podcast, which is You Rock with Sherri Johnson, a real estate podcast. So you can listen to it there. People tell me all the time they re-listen to these. So excellent. Again, we've got just a huge group of people on. I'm really excited. So let's start out right away. Where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your business. I know you're in real estate, so just give us a little background.
Sure. Yeah. So where I'm from, I'm sure a lot of your audience is not in Canada, so I will give you the Coles Notes version. It's basically, I live outside of Toronto, in about an hour outside of Toronto, just west of there, in an area called Hamilton. So it's a small city on the outskirts of that. I am an agent myself, so I've been licensed for 13 years now. I now do coaching and training on geographic farming. I have my license, but I basically focus my time helping other agents with their geographic farms. And yeah, I super passionate about farming. My history, if I'll give you the quick version of it, is I've moved 3 different times in my career. I started brand new, and I moved 3.5 hours away from where I grew up, and I got out of a crappy relationship, wanted a fresh start, moved away, knew nobody, and then I sucked. My first couple of years were a learning experience. Then I moved again. I tried farming. The second time I moved for a girl. I didn't know anyone there, so I tried farming, tried doing stuff. Sucked at that, moved again, and then I really cracked the code on farming. When I moved that third time, I took all the things I've learned and all the strategies and things I've practiced and taught, and then I put it into my own farm, and we had some really solid success, and that kind of led me into me wanting to help other agents figure out farming and how to do farming in a more modern approach and a more effective approach than traditional way of farming.
Well, that's awesome. And do you have kids?
No. None that I know of. That's what I would say.
You're in Canada, and it's so great to hear. You know what I love already is that, like, you didn't give up on farming.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times in real estate, I have to pause and say this. Agents will do something once.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And they say, oh, that didn't work. And they never go back to try it again. So I applaud you for tenaciously saying, I'm going to make this thing happen and crack the code and make it happen. So, first of all, let's be honest. There may be people on here that don't know what farming is, and it's such an industry term in real estate. I remember 26 years ago going, what the hell is farming? Like, why do we even call it that? So let's tell the audience, like, generally, what is farming? Why do we call it that? And then my second part of that question would be, how does one start a geographical farm?
Sure. Yeah. So the first question, basically, what is farming? So if you have never farmed before, if you don't know what farming is, sometimes you may think it's fruits and vegetables or Old McDonald. And I know in my own family, when I launched this program, people thought that I was into farming, and they're like, you live in a condo. Oh, I didn't know you were into farming. So in real estate, farming basically is really focusing on any subset of a community, putting your time and attention into them. Now, I focus on geographic farming, so it's focusing your time and attention into a geographic area. So that could be a small neighborhood, it could be a part of town, it could be your whole town, but it's basically putting your time, resources, and energy and becoming the go-to person and really focusing on that hyper-local marketing rather than trying to be all things to all people. You want to be that big fish in a small pond rather than a small fish in the big pond. So when you can really put your energy into an area, you can really become that go-to person that people trust. You can build relationships. You can have a much more solid business. And it comes from the analogy of like real farming, where you plant your seeds, you tend to it, you water it, you take care of it, and then you watch your harvest grow. So in our business, we're fixing or finding our subset of the community that we're going to focus on, and we put our time and attention and resources, and you don't give up on it. You don't plant a seed and walk away and hope it works. It takes time, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a bountiful harvest, and you're going to have something that can keep feeding your business year after year after year if you do it correctly.
Yeah. And, I loved, it is an analogy to farming, and it is planting the seeds. And sometimes, it's funny when you sell one house or one property in a neighborhood. And I remember early on as an agent, everyone thought I sold everything in there because I was the only one sending out all the postcards. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can become the go-to in a very short amount of time.
Yep.
If you have a plan and a strategy.
Yep.
And it's not just send one card, really going after, really going after the 2 to 5 other people in that neighborhood who are thinking about moving. And so, I also wanted to ask you, like, can people pick, and this is one of our favorite, I will say this, one of our coaching clients this year made $100,000 between January and May 31st in closed business from our micro farming. And so this strategy works. That's why you're here. That's why literally we have a record number of viewers today too. I'm so excited, Ryan. Thank you. This is awesome. You have a great following. How do people pick? Can you go after a neighborhood that you haven't sold anything in, or should you be just targeting the ones you've sold in? How do you pick the price range, and how do you pick the neighborhoods?
So that's a ton of questions and ideas. So to start, I would say, no, it's great because those are the very most common things that we get that come up. So a lot of times people choose their farm based on that they live there. So a lot of people say, well, I live in the area, so I'm going to choose my farm. And that's a way to choose a farm, but it doesn't mean it's the best way. And it may be great because you've got relationships, you've got connections in the area, the area, and you're comfortable with it. But that doesn't mean that's the only reason you should choose a farm. Another way that people choose their farm, which is old school way of being taught, which is focus on the turnover rates. And for those of you who don't know, or if you're listening, it's basically number of homes sold in a 12-month period divided by how many homes there are in the neighborhood. So if there's 1,000 homes and there's 100 home sales, it'd be 100 divided by 1,000, which gives you a 10% turnover rate. So a lot of the old traditional coaches and trainers with farming tell you, say, look for a good price point and a high turnover rate and focus on that. And the reality is that is a metric, but it's not the most important metric when you're choosing your farm. It's something you want to take into consideration. And again, I love analogies. So I use an analogy all the time about my health. If I was to base my health on one metric, like the turnover rate, that'd be like me saying my blood pressure is good, so therefore I'm healthy. But my blood sugar level could be high, my cholesterol could be high, my weight could be overweight. So you have to look at kind of the bigger picture and look at all of those things. So there's things like competition, price point, size, what type of homes are they in, your experience in the area. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. So there's never really like a cookie cutter answer of saying this is how you choose this farm, because what would be a great farm for me may not be a great farm for you and may not be a great farm for someone else. So you want to look at, I always tell people, you want to start with your budget first. And that's really what's going to help you dictate what you're going to do. The budget you have will help you dictate the strategies you do, how many homes you go after, what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, and how much time and energy you put into it. So whenever someone comes to me and asks what I should do, I always say, start with that budget. I'll back up. It's not just a financial budget, it's a time budget and an energy budget as well. So a lot of people will throw money at a farm, but don't put the time or the energy into it. And then it fails and they're not willing to do the things they need to do to keep it going. So you have to know, how much time am I going to commit to this farm, and how much energy, mental energy and physical energy am I going to put into this farm? And if you're willing to figure out that budget, then you can choose the right farm and the right strategies.
And I think that's part of why these things sort of can fail, because
Yeah.
there isn't a plan, and it does require a time commitment. It does require, it's not going to happen. Sometimes stuff happens quickly, but sometimes it is, sending out more than one card, right? So,
Yes.
so your strategy, does it include, is it just postcards? What are we sending these people? Are we putting them in a social media? I know you have a program. I think it's something called Scope or something. It's really cool. I love the name of it. I love the design of it. And I'm excited to tell our viewers what that means. And so how does one start the farm, and what is involved, and what components happen in
Yes. So in my experience, in my opinion, you need to have a balanced approach in your farm. And a lot of agents, again, going back to traditional type farming, took a self-promotion type approach with their business. And they went out there and they promoted the heck out of themselves. They sent out postcards of them and how great they are and how many homes they sell and who they are. And that works, but it doesn't work as effectively. So what I did was I created the SCOPE method, and it's basically creating a balance in your business. And you need to make sure you're hitting all of these to make sure you've got a balance in the approaches and the strategies you do. So SCOPE stands for self-promotion, community, online, prospecting, and education. And in order to have the best approach with your business, and I call it strategy stacking, where you layer those strategies together, by having SCOPE in place, you can then go, okay, what do I need to do? If I'm all self-promotion, I'm missing out on a ton of business, or I'm not going to reach people the same way that I could if I was having other things. So maybe you're promoting yourself, but you're not involved in the community. Maybe you need to take more action into the community. Maybe you need to have a little more online presence, or maybe you need to go out there and do some prospecting, and maybe you can educate the community. So when you learn to have that balance, you're able to get more business out of it. You'll be able to be more efficient with your time and your money, and you'll get a lot more business that comes in. You may start with one of those, and you may be excellent at self-promotion. You may be great at community, but you need to make sure you're starting to raise the bar on the other ones. And when you do that, then you're going to have a much more balance in your business, and you'll also protect yourself against things like COVID. So, for example, I use the example all the time of a lot of people went out and door knocked and did open houses, and that was their whole business. And they did great for it for a number of years. COVID comes along and completely chops your legs out from underneath you, because you can't go out and door knock. You can't be out in public. At least in our area, you couldn't. So now your business is basically taken out from the knees. When you have that SCOPE method in place, you're able to reach people in different ways. You can adapt easier. You can shift your strategies to make sure that they're working together. And the other reason why it works so well is most agents aren't good at doing all those things. So you're going to be able to capture people's attention in different ways. You may have a dominant agent in your area that's great at self-promotion, but they suck at the other part. So you can capture market share from those agents because they're not doing those other things. So it allows you to really hone in and capture a broader audience.
What would be an example? So an example of utilizing, are we using all of these: self-promotion, community, online, prospecting, and education with one farm neighborhood?
Yep. Yeah, you should.
Okay.
And then that's where the strategy stacking comes in. If you can layer your strategies in together, you can start to overlap. And I'll give you an example. So one of the big things that I'm a believer in is helping local businesses. So if you like focusing on local businesses, that can help the community because you're able to help those local businesses in the community. That can also be an educational piece. So now you're reaching people because you could be doing cross promotion with them. You could be doing interviews. You could be doing some training programs. You could be doing some online stuff. Maybe you're doing some webinars or some online ads. You could be doing a community group for them. You could be doing some prospecting with them. So when you start to take your strategies and use the SCOPE method, you're able to find more opportunities of things you can do. Again, traditional way of just sending out a postcard doesn't really check those boxes. It checks the self-promotion. It may be an online element because you're sending traffic to a website, and there may be an educational component, but you want to make sure you're reaching people more than that, and you're going to get more out of it. So I'll take it back to really the fundamentals, and then maybe this will help get some more ideas and inspiration. So one of the things I talk about all the time is the fundamentals of farming is what I call CPR. It's really how you keep your farm alive. It's CPR. And that stands for community, positioning, and relationships. At any core of any good farm, those are the three critical things that you need to have to keep your farm alive. So a lot of agents are, again, traditional way of doing farming. They're just sending out postcards. From the community standpoint, are they active? Are they involved in the community? Are they put in the community first, or are they a transaction-based agent? And a lot of agents are just the numbers. It's just pumping out business. When you're doing a farm, the community is so important, and that has to really be the pivotal part of your business. And when you learn to put that community first, the community will help you. Then the next part is positioning. And I call positioning really a key part because it's how you separate yourself from the competition. And you do that by being the ambassador and the expert. And they're two very different things, but they feed into each other. So the expert means you know your product, you know your inventory, you know the community, you know what's going on in the area, you know the businesses. And the ambassador is that I'm fighting for you position. It's I'm helping you, I'm helping the community because I want to see that community succeed. And if you can do that, you can then start to build those relationships. And those relationships is really what the farming is all about. It's not people I send postcards out to. And so many people think it's just my farm is just an audience that I'm just trying to convert. Right. It's really about those relationships. So if you do the right things, you do the positioning right, you build the community first, you then build those relationships, and then you become that go-to person. So anytime I look at any strategy or any approach, I put it through that CPR lens and say, okay, is this good for the community? Is this helping position me? And is it helping build relationships?
I love it. And, educational marketing is like so fantastic. We were doing a lot of neighborhood virtual online homeowner seminars and promoting those via cards, via a QR code on the card, and, doing an educational event so that people could, go online and learn about remodeling, refinancing, or maybe relocating and getting tons of relationships out of that start now. And people, whether they decide to move now or in 6 months or a year from now, you'll be the one that maximizes that opportunity because you created that relationship. So you mentioned COVID, and I feel like this is a foolproof way to make sure you are always able to do business. I mean, you just said it. If you're a door knocker, which, I just had someone this morning tell me they love door knocking, and they said they couldn't do it during COVID, and now it's like the hugest part of their business. And so, this type of strategy, I think, for the long run, is the way to. So how many neighborhoods should we be looking at? How many houses? That people ask me this all the time. Like, how many is enough? Is it a certain number of rooftops? Is it so many neighborhoods? I know you said to be strategic, and I agree that you got to be strategic and why you're picking the neighborhood, but what's the right amount?
So again, I hate to say that there's no right answer or wrong answer because it depends on your budget, your experience, and your time. But I can tell you with certainty, my mantra that I speak all the time is it's better to scale up than it is to scale back. And one of the biggest faults and the reasons why most agents fail is they try to go too big, too quick. They blow through their budget, they blow through their energy, they blow through their time, and they're not able to keep it up. And I'd rather see you start small and then learn the ropes, especially if you've never farmed before. You don't know if your strategies work. You don't know if your approaches work. You don't have your systems in place. You don't have the tools to work out. You don't have the budget figured out. And then they throw a bunch of money at it. They try it for a couple months, and then they don't get the results, and then they give up. You're better to start small, figure out those nuances, figure out the details, figure out things that work, and then you can scale up. So I've seen agents get more deals from small micro farms than they have with massive farms. So I give the example all the time. My friend Adam, I was helping him with his farm a number of years ago, and there was 280 people in his little farm. It was this little area. Major highway came through and cut it off and kind of like disconnected it from the rest of our city. And it was this little pocket. And he said, I wanted to pick an area that I could spend money on for a year that my wife wouldn't kill me if I didn't make anything off of it. So he said, what budget could I set aside that my wife's not going to kill me and say, you lost all this money? So he put away $100 a month and then just went after this area. He door knocked, did open houses, did exclusive invites before, and did flyers and all this kind of stuff. In his first year of doing that, he ended up getting 8 out of the 11 sales from that little area because he just focused on it. And I've seen agents farm 5,000 homes and couldn't even get 3 sales out of it. Yeah. So it's better to be small. And I said, be that big fish in the small pond. So if you've got the budget, you've got the experience, you've got the time, and you're able to do that, then sure. But the key is, if you're going to farm, is still stay focused on each neighborhood. So don't try to just do your whole town or your city. You still want to be community based in that micro pocket that you're focusing on, because you're going to see better results, because people are going to connect with it and say, well, I live in this neighborhood. Ryan's the specialist in this neighborhood. He sells homes in this area. And if you're trying to be too big, you'll lose that effect.
Yeah. And I love that you just said, it is better you could work a 280 list and get 8 out of 11 sales. That success ratio is really great versus just throwing it all at, that approach of just sort of seeing what sticks. I don't think that's very effective. I always say I'd rather call less people and be more effective with a better strategy.
Yeah.
Than make hundreds of calls and just see who wants to sell. So what message would be on, when I call or when I heard you mention open houses, inviting people to an open, which I love because I love open houses. And if done right, you can make 50,000+ from one open house. So let's just say I'm prospecting a specific farm neighborhood. I'm selling some houses in there. I do an open house. Should I be inviting these people to the open? Do I invite them to a separate open house that's before the public open? And what are your ideas for that?
So opening an exclusive neighbor invite is an awesome way to do that. Again, it shows that you're connected to the community. It shows you're helping them. My friend Adam, he did that, and he did a gift card for his open houses, and you do a gift card and they could enter to win a gift card if the neighbor showed up. I've seen agents do like wine and cheese events in the evenings, or they do exclusive invites only. The key really is, and in any farming, is adding value to the people in the community and getting them to put their hand up rather than you sending out stuff. You want to be communicating with them instead of just speaking at them. And so many agents who do farming speak at their audience. They just tell them how great they are. They talk about themselves. They talk about what's going on. And it's how do you open up that conversation, the dialogue? And you do that by getting people to put their hand up. So you do that with educational based marketing. You do that with community outreach. You do that with partnering with people in the community so that people are following you rather than you trying to interrupt them and try to get in front of them or just send enough stuff that they remember you.
Yeah, you just said it, adding value and, being their go-to at the time that they're ready. The exclusive open house is a way people always say, oh, I don't want the nosy neighbors. And it's like, actually, no, you want those neighbors, their future potential listings and their future potential buyers. Always interests me when agents look at it that way instead of looking at it as, a potential. It is a fact that where there are, one sign is in a yard, in that neighborhood, 2 to 3 plus homes are going to go up in the next 3 to 12 months. We know this. NAR statistics show this and say this. So if you're adding value, which is the key to all of this, and I just think that you're right. So many times the self-promotional thing gets a little out of control. We see, the wrong messages on postcards instead of how I can help you or I can solve your problem, giving good information about what's sold recently. So how often do you need to be contacting these people? Is it once a month? Is it more than once a month?
So what my belief is that if you're doing the scope and you're having a balance on it, the more the better, because you're doing different things and reaching people in different ways. If I'm sending people real estate information 4 times a month and they're not interested in real estate, it's not going to do anything for me. But if I'm involved in the community, if I'm partnering with local businesses, if I'm supporting local causes, if I'm out in the community helping things and I'm doing real estate and I'm doing education, the more the better. So because people are going to see you in different ways, you're going to capture people's attentions differently. Certain people are going to resonate with certain things. A certain percent of the audience is going to resonate with self-promotion, and a certain percentage is going to resonate with the prospecting, and some will resonate with the community. So by doing multiple things, you're going to reach people in a different way. And the mistake, again, that most agents make is that they focus on just on real estate. And then that's when people tune you out. That's when people don't care. That's when they go, I'm not selling. I'm moving here for 5 years, and they don't care about you, but they want to know that you care about them. So if you can show you care about them and the community, that's how you're going to do that. So by being involved and active, you're going to see better results. So at a minimum, absolute bare minimum monthly, you should be communicating in some form or another at a bare minimum. If you're not doing that, pick a smaller farm. I would say pick half the area and double down versus go twice as big and go half as much.
Oh, I love that. And I also think, you said it, if the constant message is just about real estate, in fact, not talking about real estate and this is when the neighborhood garage sales are, this is where the newest restaurant is, this is all about everything else except real estate, actually, is I think a really great strategy because you're constantly in front of these people.
Exactly.
Adding value, giving them things they didn't even know they needed. What are some examples of online farming?
Yeah, so online, great thing that I think is underutilized is a neighborhood community group. So a Facebook group for the community, I think, is super valuable. There's a ton of reasons why that works. Again, going back to that speaking at versus speaking with, Facebook group, you're able to have conversations with people. Traditional marketing is just pushing your message out there. A Facebook group allows you to literally get in the minds of people and get in the conversations that people are having in your community, so you can let people know what's happening in the community. You can talk about the events. You can talk about statistics. You can talk about things that are happening that may be affecting them. So you're being able to really build a community online that hopefully will translate into offline relationships. If I'm just sending out postcards, you don't get that.
Yeah, I love this, 5-prong approach with this. It's called SCOPE. So don't write that down, everybody. SCOPE: self-promotion, community, online, prospecting, and education. And we do have a question, Ryan. This says, Oana can you clarify what prospecting means in your system? Is that just door knocking?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So my definition of prospecting is looking for new business of people who are looking to make a move. So it's not just the educational part. It's not just getting your name out there. It's trying to find people who are looking to move. And you still have to have that. You have to be doing open houses. It could be doing reverse prospecting. It could be cold calling. It could be a number of ways to do that. But you have to be looking for people who are looking to make a move and not just sending out marketing itself. Now, you don't have to, but again, to have that balance, you need to make sure you're doing all of those things.
And I want to touch on, too, you said, a neighborhood Facebook group. Many of our agents do this. And I'm telling you that, one in particular out of Florida just did a post that said, instead of saying we have no inventory, we've been preaching and promoting, say you have inventory, actually go find the listings instead of saying we have an inventory problem. Say, I can find you a house. Where do you want to live? That's the easy part. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that. But this gentleman, this agent down in Florida, did a post, and it just simply said, we have inventory. If you're looking to sell and you want to know the, price opinion of your home, DM me. 3 requests. He listed all 3. He sold one of them himself. That's 4 transactions from one post, which, Ryan, to your point, was in a neighborhood Facebook group that he was just a member of. And he said he had done other things that had nothing to do with real estate, had relationships with these folks, knew them. They were neighbors, probably 250 people only. 3 in 2 weeks. And by the time I met with them again, their group, he had 3 under contracts, one of which he sold himself. So I think I'm glad you brought up the Facebook community. Are you seeing agents creating their own Facebook VIP for past clients or for like friends and family? That seems to be like a really big thing too. Can you kind of expand on how one can do that?
Yeah, I've had agents on my show that I interview, and a lot of them have done that, where they create a private group for their past clients, their sphere, their people they work on, and then they have special promotions in there. They have giveaways. They're not really talking about real estate specifically. Sometimes it's just life things that they're doing cross promotion with local businesses. They're just doing giveaways. They're having fun events and contests and things like that, and they're keeping it exclusive to them. And then that becomes a desirable thing. If you want to be part of this group, hey, you can refer us, or you can do deals with us, and you can be invite into this group, and you get all these different things that are going on in the community, and it just helps them create more value for the people they've worked with or want to work with in the future.
And I think what I want to say about the Facebook groups that's different than your business page, posting on your business page. When we post on our business page, only so many people are seeing that unless you pay to boost that. What's unique about the Facebook groups, and from my understanding, there's over 600 million Facebook groups, and they're usually hobbies and groups of people that know each other, etc. If you think about it, those Facebook groups, every single person in that group will see that post, versus maybe someone sees it during an algorithm on Facebook on these other methods, or having to pay to play or pay to post and boost your ads. So you can have a conversation, which we're trying to do, everybody. This is a relationship business.
Exactly.
And agents, it's funny. I was in this talk this week talking about prospecting or generating new business. And it's like, first of all, we're technically are in sales, number one. Number two, our servant type selling style is to have conversations with as many people as we can. And for some reason, and I said this to this group of agents and they all agreed with me. And I said, for whatever reason, agents don't want to talk to people unless they're ready to buy or sell.
Yeah.
Once they're ready to buy or sell, we're okay. But before that, it's like, we don't have, I don't know what that is. So everyone listen, creating relationships, build farming into your business plan, into your strategy for generating more referral business, more repeat business, and certainly more listings. So how do we tie any type of, I had a question about the tying the postcard farming with, is there a way to tie a neighborhood farming campaign into Facebook so that I'm getting the same people, like that audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways you could do postcard farming to promote your Facebook group. So if you got a group, that could be something you advertise and say, hey, there's a group, this is what's going on. Maybe you could have a contest. If anyone joins they find the Facebook group and they join, they can be entered into a contest. You could be using postcards for community events. And that's something that we did in our farm. So we would tie that rather than sponsor an event or sponsor some things. Because they just want your money and they'd put your logo on stuff. We would say, hey, we'll promote it in lieu of giving you cash. We'll take charge of the sponsoring on our part. We'll promote it to our thing. So then we would piggyback with them. So one side of the postcard would be our marketing and the other side would be the event that we're promoting. And we would use that as our way. So now that mentally ties us to that community cause, to that event that's going on. We could use that for door knocking. So we would do that and say, hey, there's an event going on in the community. Just want to let you know there's this fall fairs happening. Wanted to personally invite you out. Oh, by the way, we also have a neighborhood report. Would you like to get a copy of it? So we marry the two together. So you're not just out there going, hey, you think about making a move? Because that's what every other agent does. Hey, you think about making a move? Now when they know, hey, you're out there, you're supporting local businesses, you're supporting local causes, you're supporting local events, and you also do real estate, it's easier to tie that together and people will learn to trust you and go, oh, you're very different. You stand out. You're not like everyone else who's just, I had 3 other people here who told me they wanted to sell my house or they got a buyer. It's a way to really tie it all together. Yeah,
you definitely radically differentiate yourself from everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. When in a world of everybody saying, I'm waiting for something to come up in the LMS, in a world of, and we do something different. We say, I can find you a house. Tell me where you want to live, right? It might look a little different, but it adds such trust and confidence.
100%.
If that seller says, wow, this person's like, their main purpose of contacting me is not just to tell me they have a buyer for my house, which is such a great gem you just said. And I don't want to let this moment go without saying, like, first, I'm adding value. Oh, by the way, and I sell houses too. So it's more of again, adding value people like. I mean, people like the other information. And that's what's so great. And who do they think of when they go to sell? They're like, oh, I'm going to call Ryan because I get something from him and it's awesome. And I love the stuff I get and I don't even ask for it and I get it. I also like tying the postcards to your Facebook groups. I think that's like awesome. And whether it's a community event and then you say, hey, click here for more information about what's happening in real estate. If you want to join, you're welcome to join. It's just it's like the secondary message, which again is exactly, I think, to your point. What about neighborhoods where there might already be sort of an agent that's sort of occupying that? A lot of agents will say to me, I can't go there. Somebody lives there. They own it, that kind of stuff. I love that. How do you overcome that?
So the reality is, and I can tell you from my experience, that 99% of agents don't farm. I know that because I teach it. I know that most agents aren't actually farming areas. And there may be agents who are big players in your area who do a lot of business in that area, but they're not farming it directly or intentionally. So in our area, there's a team that does 400 plus deals a year. Well, if you go through a neighborhood, at any given neighborhood, they're going to have X amount of deals in that neighborhood, but they're not actively farming that area. So if you went in and just did your competition and they say, oh, okay, they're doing 12 deals in this neighborhood, they're not farming it. So there's an opportunity there. The other thing is most agents who do farm it are old school farmers. They are doing it the way that they were trained a lot of times in the past, unless they've taken my courses, then they're doing it correctly. Then the other thing is a lot of times they're doing it just self-promotion. They're not doing a broader approach. They're not using a more balanced approach. So there's opportunities for you to be different than that person. So I would say I'd rather go up against one big agent than 5 agents who are gobbling up market share at a smaller rate, but having 5 combined. Because for me to go and compete against 5 other agents at a listing appointment is a lot more difficult to win that than one agent. Yeah. So I'd rather have that one where it's like, yeah, this agent does this, but I do this, versus, well, that agent does this, well, this agent does this agent does this, and this agent does this. So if there's one dominant player, don't be afraid, unless they've got 40, 50, 60% market share, which I can tell you in most neighborhoods does not happen. It just doesn't, unless you're in like a very small town and there's no one else around. But then again, you're gonna have to do deals anyway, so you might as well try farming it if you live in a small town.
I love this, and that is such a great way to look at it, and it's really true. The top agents are not farming, and if they are, it's just at people. I think it's that at versus to. You just keep repeating that. And I'm really loving that, because are you speaking at people? Or are you speaking, to them or with them? And those sales are happening and they're on to the next sale. I agree with you. I don't think they're really doing it. And our experience is that they aren't doing it either, and it's like, it's just such a good way to look at this. So how can someone start this with, like, how much money does it really take? And what do you think the time, what's the time commitment that you could get started to see some results? And then what do you think the budgeting is?
So again, when I talk about things, I always say there's no definitive answer, because I don't have a thing where it's like, this is the only way to do it. With the time and the money, it depends on what you're willing to do. So I always say it's that time and money budget. If you're brand new or you don't have a lot of money, you're going to have to put the time in. You cannot get results without putting something. You have to give up your time. You have to give up your money. You have to give up your energy or your resources to get results. If you're hoping that you can magically throw some fairy dust on there and just all of a sudden become the market dominant player in the area, it's not going to happen. It takes work, or it's going to take money. For most agents, they may not have the cash to do that, so it's going to take time and energy. I look at it as that's your full-time job until you start having deals. So if you're trying to grow your business, you should be out there working. Now, the caveat to that is a lot of times agents will do a lot of stuff up front because they don't have the money, and it is a lot of time and energy heavy stuff. And then all of a sudden they start getting results, and now they can't keep up what they were doing. So you need to make sure that you're balancing it and that the things you're doing are effective and not just wasting your time. You could go volunteer every day and go be part in the community. And if you're not getting results from it, or as soon as you start getting busy, you don't have the time to do that, you may not do that. So the way we look at it when we were doing our farm was 2 hours a day committed to the farm. And then we had a budget. We took 10% off of all our deals, and that went right back into the farm. And that was kind of our budget of time and our budget of money. And that's how we grew our farm. So we went from no sales in the area. I was new to the area, and we started in September. And by January, we got our first listing. And from January, and within 15 months, we got 17 transactions in our farm. And that was with no sales, no nothing. And that was putting in 2 hours a day and then putting in 10% off of the deals we put in. So if you're willing to put the time and energy to do it, you'll get the results. Now, how long does it take to see results? You asked that. That depends on what approach you do. If you're doing old school approach, if you're doing old school, just getting your name out there, if you've been around, you probably heard it takes 6 to 18 months before you start to see results. That's because you're just blasting your message out there and you're not connecting with people. You're not building relationships. So if you're willing to build relationships and you're willing to speed that up, you can speed that up. I've had people in my boot camp who got results in 2 weeks. They started following the things I do in my boot camp, and within 2 weeks, they got their first deal. I had someone do it 3 weeks. I can't guarantee everyone's going to get a deal in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But if you're willing to do the things that build those relationships, connect with people, and add value, you can do it in a couple months and start to see the results.
Exactly. And Wow, so much great stuff. Thank you to Michael Murphy for your comment, who said great stuff. And this has been, wow, if you have questions, folks, feel free to drop the questions in the comments for Ryan. Ryan, tell us about launchyourfarm.com. Launch Your Farm, your company that you created to help agents with this. Tell us about it.
Sure. So I specifically focus on geographic farming. I'm a big fan of niches, and I know the niche if you're American, is farming. And the reason I created that because I knew there was a need for agents to really re-understand or figure out how to do farming in the future. So I have a show. I'll start with that. It's a weekly show that I do. I interview agents about geographic farming. So agents that are doing it personally, businesses that are kind of supplementary to it as well. And I show agents how you can do your farms and show it in different ways. So it's not just, again, this is the only approach to do it. It's all the agents are doing it in different ways, different strategies, different budgets, different sizes and scales. And I did that so that I can have agents get some extra value from that. I also offer programs. I do some coaching and training. I have some online courses. I've got a boot camp that I run about every 2 months. And the boot camp is a 8-week program where we dive into about 15 different strategies. It's a live call each week for 8 weeks. And we go into some of the things that we're talking about. How do you implement that? How do you layer all those strategies together so you've got the tools and resources to do it? I've got programs like my 30-day launch, which is meant for agents who have never farmed before, don't know how to farm, and it gives you 30 videos over 30 days. It's about 12 hours of training, and it's each day there's a video and there's some homework each day. So it gets you into action, getting bite-sized steps so that you're prepared to go out and find your farm, choose the farm, get all the resources in place, and get launched.
So, and I love your logo. I have to show this because I just love the fact that, well, first of all, like you can go to Launch Your Farm, and it says, we help you grow your geographic farm. There is let me look here. There's a free 5-day introductory course that I think is great. And I think, you've got unbelievable testimonials on here. We teach farming. We teach the geographic farming. I love your sort of 5-pronged approach, putting it all together. We know this works, and we have success stories after success stories. Like I said, $100,000 in 5 months.
Yeah.
I will say this. She's got about a $500,000 average sale price. But what's great about this kind of farming is that you can intentionally, part of the strategy was to increase this agent's average sale price by going after a specific neighborhood and market. And so I call it give yourself a raise. You can actually on purpose give yourself a raise and do these things that Ryan is talking about. Set yourself apart, go after self-promotion, community. I've never had anybody put it in such great organizational manner. The scope, again, I'm repeating it: self-promotion, community, online prospecting, and education. And what a great layout. Do you have a marketing degree?
No, I just love marketing. That's something I'm passionate about. So
yeah, self-taught, but you are really just this is so well articulated, because everyone, I think, gets, oh gosh, I started this at the beginning. It's like we do one thing, agents will do something, they don't get results.
Yeah.
They give up. And you just said at the beginning of this interview that you did it, it didn't work. It, crashed and burned a couple of times. And yet look at what's happening now. You've got a machine, you've got a what I would call duplicatable process and system that is the proof is in the results. What can agents, so first go listen to your show, right? So go check out the website. I'll ask Zach to put it on in our comments, launchyourfarm.com, very easy. And we could go check out your site, and we can check out your services. What would you say to agents to get them into action today? Like, what should they do today that will help them maximize the fourth quarter and have, what I like to say, sales and profit in January? So what could they do this week and this weekend to launch this, so to speak, to use your terminology, launch some sort of geo target farming?
The simplest answer is to start. You have to start, and you have to do something, and then you have to commit. So when I teach, I always finish up my sessions. I always do. There's three things. You need to learn, you have to commit, and you have to start. You have to learn, be willing to learn what you need to do to put it in place. A lot of times people try farming. They don't know what they're doing. They try to figure it out. I've talked to agents say, I've tried farming. And I said, what happens? I mailed out something and then it didn't work. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to commit to the long term. It is a long-term play. It's a long-term game, just like real farm. You don't plant seeds, walk away in 2 weeks and say nothing grew. You have to know there's a season for everything. And there's a cycle for things. You can speed that up if you know what you're doing. So you have to be willing to do that. And then you have to be willing to start and go out and take action on it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to building relationships. So anything you do, go back to that CPR. Anytime you're thinking about how do I do my farm, put it through that lens of that CPR and say, is this good for the community? Is this helping me grow the community? Is it helping me build my relationships in the community? Is it helping position me as that ambassador and that expert? And is it going to help me build new relationships and strengthen the relationships I already have? And when you look at the strategy you're doing through that lens, it will help you see more opportunities. It will also help you maybe eliminate some things that may not be checking those boxes. Simple, I'm the best real estate agent doesn't really help the community, doesn't really position you as the ambassador. It may help you as the expert, and it doesn't really build relationships. So anything you're thinking about doing, go through that CPR lens and say, okay, is it checking those boxes? And then don't be afraid to try. And then don't try farming, but don't be afraid to try things. You have to be willing to experiment. You have to be willing to dabble in things and say, get out of your comfort zone, try new strategies and approaches. You have to try things differently than you may have been taught 20 years ago about farming. You have to be willing to step out of that comfort zone, but be willing to track it and monitor and say, is it working? Is it not? And be willing to work with it. So if you're willing to do it, go out and build relationships. There's 100 strategies you could try, but you have to be willing to start and to do that and commit to doing it.
Yeah. And you just said to stick with it.
Yeah.
Start before you're ready.
Yep. 100%.
Commit
Yep.
to it. Start before you're ready. If things are a little off, adjust along the way, try a different way, try a different approach. I heard you say that.
Yep.
And, really it's that community, position, and relationships. You spelled this out so awesome today. I know that our viewers just got an unbelievable session here, just listening to your wisdom and your strategy. And I love just how easily you've spelled this out, almost like to the point of like everybody on this call should go execute this right now. You know what I mean? And it's like, I hope they do. It's always funny. You do a class, you do a show, and people say, oh, it was great, and I know I can speak for Ryan right now that what Ryan and I love as coaches and as presenters and teachers of this great industry is what we love is when you put it into practice
100%.
and get the results. Yeah. That's what we love, because just saying that was a great session or wow, that guy from Toronto was really cool. I loved that whole thing. Yes. And yes, and yes. But like he said, putting it into action, we have to stop getting ready to get ready. Yeah. And I think in this industry, we trick ourselves that we're working a lot, and there's no reason everyone on this call can't sell one house a week. I don't care what market you're in. I don't care what market you're in. If you want to do this business, you can do whatever you want. You just have to be the first person to believe that. And then start using strategies like the one we just heard from Ryan Smith. This has been awesome. Go check out launchyourfarm.com. And we are going to have this again on our podcast on You Rock with Sherri Johnson, the real estate podcast. Over 3,100 downloads in like the past 2 months. I'm so excited. Nice. I can't even believe people are listening to this. So please check out the podcast but check out Ryan's company. How can someone, I know you can't go into all the fees right now, but obviously it's affordable. You have clients that are doing this, their ROI on this, system to go into your course and, sell 1 or 2 or 5 houses, or we're hearing some have, 8 out of 11 sales in one neighborhood. That's what I love about this. The ROI on this is so fantastic. We just had an agent do a micro farming, and he said, he got $18,000 worth of potential business. He's actually listing and working with this couple, and it's $18,000, the first sale and first buyer client that's going to buy and sell. So this is a proven strategy. It
Yeah.
does work. And to me, I think, in a world of lots of trying to get, fast sales from spending a lot of money on leads that we may not be getting good leads, right? I mean,
Yep.
the reality, there are only so many buyers and sellers out there. You just want to try this. And whatever you did in the past, if it didn't work, throw that away. Try this new approach. This is a totally different way to do farming. And Ryan, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to share my wealth of information. And I hope people are excited about farming and really get into it, regardless if they do my training or not, that they just go out there and start. Because if you do it, you can have an impact. And again, because of the training I do and the way I teach, it's about the community. You can have such an impact on your community and not just your business. And if you do it correctly, you become more than just an agent. You become that ambassador truly, and you can make an impact in your community. And that is worth more than any of the commission you're going to get, because you can see the changes in your community. And we need it now more than ever. So
yeah, and we need that. And being having that, I love the word ambassador. I think that's just fantastic. Will you come back on?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good. I'd love to have you again. You are just exactly adding value today. You just added amazing value. All these people putting the hearts up, they loved it. And again, you guys just got dropped a ton of content. I am so excited. Be sure to check this out also on our YouTube channel. YouTube channel is Sherri Johnson. Launchyourfarm.com is where you can find Ryan Smith. And he's also on Facebook and all social media channels. So they should connect with you there as well.
Yep.
Awesome. And I have a feeling we're going to have you back sooner rather than later by request and probably by demand, my friend. So you're now part of the Sherri Johnson coaching faves over here. So look forward to that. Everyone, go do this. Try it out. And don't even try it. Just say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put the time and the budget and the effort behind it. And I know, I can just tell you'll get great results. We want to hear your results. So keep in touch with us. And anyone who's out here, just really, what you do today, you will thank yourself 90 days from now.
Yeah.
You'll be ecstatic when you have closings in January. I'm telling you right now, you'll be profitable in January. And we're getting another thank you here. I am excited, and I'm so charged and energized. I've always loved farming, and wow, you've got just the best recipe for everyone to do this. All right, guys, let's do this. It's Friday afternoon. I'm Sherri Johnson. Ryan, thanks again for being with us. Everybody out there, have a wonderfully successful listing and sales week and week when you launched your geographic target farming. I can't wait to hear your results, everybody. And we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week on Rockstar Interview with Sherri Johnson Coaching. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Happy farming, everyone.
Yeah, happy farming. Thanks, Ryan. You rock, buddy. So excited to have you. Really, thank you.